Chapter 15 The Christians. Begin all acts and thinking by using Al-Kalum the All. Tablet 7 The Travels of Jesus. 19 times 14 equals 266. Lo, as a baby, Yahshua was taken by his parents into Egypt, weaned until age 2 under the close watch of his mother. At age 3, he started to study alphabets and their meanings under an Egyptian teacher. At age 4 years, 4 months and 4 days, he was given over to Joseph, who taught him the rudiments of carpentry up until age 5. At the 6th year, they returned back to Jerusalem, for they heard of the death of Herod. By age 7, studying with the Essenes, of which Joseph was a member, he memorized all the Hebraic texts and returned to Nazareth because it was now safe for him and his family to return there. At age 11, Yahshua was brought into the council of the Sanhedrin. Hillel, who was also one of Mary's teachers, was so interested with the youngster that he personally educated Yahshua for the next year. Their mutual admiration for one another grew quite quickly, and they were almost inseparable companions. Many of the noticed points of the law which would perplex the Sanhedrin, the child would clearly explain to Hillel through the logic of love and justice. At age 12, he returned to Jerusalem from Egypt for the feast of the Passover. When the Passover feast was over and Yahshua's family were on their way back to Galilee, they realized that Yahshua was not in their company. Thus they returned to Jerusalem, and finding him in the temple with the elders learning and teaching, discussing many things which surprised the elders. He was asked about his behavior, and he rejected them as his parents, with the statement, "I must be about my father's work." Hillel delayed his return for another day in order to show him off to the elders, who had come from the outlying reaches of the Holy Land for the celebration in Jerusalem. But after much tears from Mary, Yahshua decided to return with her home. At age 13, this is the age Yahshua, Messiah, received his bar mitzvah. This is the age all boys reach manhood. At age 14, Yahshua journeyed to India, being a man after age 13. Between ages 15 and 19, Yahshua studied amongst the Brahma masters and common people. They referred to him as Har Krishna. This title was carried back to Jerusalem and became Helios Christos, meaning the Anointed Son. In time, this simply became Christ. Between the ages of 20 and 25, Yahshua journeyed up to the Tigris-Euphrates River, going through Afghanistan and Chaldea. First he went to India amongst the Hindu. Benares is the sacred city of the Brahms and the Benares Yahshua taught. Adraka was his host. Adraka made a feast in honor of his guests, and many high-born Hindu priests and scribes were there. And Yahshua said to them with much delight, "I speak to you concerning life, the brotherhood of life. The universal Elyon is one, yet he is more than one. All things are one. By the sweet breath of Elyon, all life is bound is one. If you so touch the fiber of a living thing, you send the thrill from the center to the outer bounds of life. And when you crush beneath your heel the meanest worm, you shake the throne of Elyon and cause the sword of life to tremble in its sheath." The bird sings out its song for Enoshites, and Enoshites vibrate in unison to help it sing. The ant constructs its home, the bee its sheltering comb, the spider weaves her web, flowers breathe to them a spirit in their sweet perfume that gives them strength to toil. Now Enoshites and birds and beasts and creeping things are deities made flesh, and how dare you kill anything? It is cruelty that makes the world awry. When Enoshites have learned that when they harm a living thing they harm themselves, they surely will not kill, nor cause a thing that Elyon has made to suffer pain. A lawyer said, "I pray Yahshua, tell who is this Elyon you speak about? Where are his priests, his temples and his shrines?" And Yahshua said, "The Most High that I speak about is everywhere. He cannot be compassed with walls, nor hedged about with bounds of any kind. All people worship the Most High, the One, but all people do not see him alike. The universal Elyon is wisdom, will and love. All Enoshites see not the true and Most High. One sees him as the Most High of might, another as the Most High of thought, another as the Most High of love." An Enoshite's ideal is his Elyon. And so, as Enoshites unfold, his Elyon unfolds. And Enoshites Elyon today, tomorrow is not the Most High. The nations of the earth see Elyon from different points of view, and so he does not seem the same to everyone. Enoshites name the part of Elyon he sees, and this to him is all of the Most High, and every nation has a name for Elyon. You Brahmins call him Parabrahm, and Zeus is his name in Greece. Yahweh is his name in Hebrew, but everywhere his is the causeless cause, the rootless root from which all things have grown. When Enoshites are afraid of Eli and Elianel and take him for a foe, they dress up other Enoshites in fancy garbs and call them priests, and charge them to restrain the wrath of Eli and Elianel by prayer, and when they fail to win his favour by their prayers, they buy him off with sacrifice of animals or birds. When Enoshite sees Eli and Elianel as one with him, as Father Eli and Elianel, he needs no middle Enoshites, no priests to intercede. He goes straight up to him and says, "My father Eli and Elianel," and then he lays his hands in Eli and Elianel's own hand, and all is well. And this is Eli and Elianel. You are each one a priest, just for yourself, and sacrifice of blood Eli and Elianel does not want. Just give your life in sacrificial service to the all of life, and Eli and Elianel is pleased. When Yahshua had said thus, he stood aside, and the people were amazed, but strove amongst themselves. Some said he is inspired by Holy Brahm, and others said he is insane, and others said he is possessed. He speaks as devils speak. But Yahshua tarried not. Among the guests was one a tiller of the soil, a generous soul, a seeker after truth. He loved the words that Yahshua spoke, and Yahshua went with him and in his home abode. Then he travelled on into Tibet amongst the Buddhists. Among the Buddhist priests was one who saw the lofty wisdom in the words that Yahshua spoke. It was Bharata or Rabbo. Together Yahshua and Bharata read the Psalms and the Prophets and the Vedas and the Avesta and the wisdom of Gautama. And as they read and talked about the possibilities of man, Bharata said, "Man is the marvel of the universe. He is part of everything, for he has been a living thing on every plane of life. There was a time when man was not, and he was a bit of formless substance in the moods of time, and then a protoplast. By universal law, all things tend upwards to a state of perfection, and the protoplast evolved, becoming a worm, then reptile, bird, and beast, and at last it reached the form of man. Now man himself is mind, and mind is here to gain perfection by experience, and mind is often manifest in fleshly form, and in a form best suited to its growth. So mind may manifest as a worm or a bird or a beast or man. The time will come when everything of life will be evolved into the state of perfect man, and after man is perfected, he will evolve into higher forms of life." And Yahshua said, "Bharata or Rabbo, who told you this? That mind which is man may manifest in flesh of beast or bird or creeping thing." Bharata said, "From time which is man remembers, not our priests have told us so, and we know." And Yahshua said, "Enlighten a Rabbo, you are our mastermind, and do not know that man knows naught by being told. Man may believe what others say, but he never knows. If man would know, he must himself be what he knows. Do you remember, Rabbo, when you were an ape or a bird or a worm? Now, if you have no better proving of you than that the priest have told you so, you do not know, you simply guess. Regard not then what man has said. Let us forget the flesh and go with the mind into the land of fleshless things. Mind never does forget. And backward through the ages, masterminds can trace themselves, and thus they know. Time never was when man was not. That which begins will have an end. If man was not, the time will come when he will not exist. From Eli and Elianel's own record book we read, "The true in Eli and Elianel breathed forth and stood 7 spirits before his face. The Hebrew calls these 7 spirits Elohim, and these are they who in their boundless power created everything that is or was. These spirits are the true in Eli and Elianel, moved on the face of the boundless space, and 7 others were, and every other had its form of life. These forms of life were but a thought of Eli and Elianel, clothed in the substance of their ether planes. Men call these ether planes the planes of protoplast, of earth, of plant, of beast, of man, of angel and Garubat. These planes, with all their teeming thought of Eli and Elianel, are never seen by the eyes of man in flesh. They are composed of substance far too fine for fleshy eyes to see, and still they constitute the soul of things. And with the eyes of soul, all creatures see these ether planes and all the forms of life. Because all forms of life, on every plane are thoughts of Eli and Elianel, all creatures think, and every creature is possessed of will, and in its measure has the power to choose. And in their native planes, all creatures are supplied with nourishment from the ethers of their planes. And so it was with every living thing, until the will become a sluggish will, and then the ethers of the protoplast, the earth, the plant, the beast, the man, begin to vibrate very slow. The ethers become more dense, and all the creatures of the planes were clothed with coarser garbs of flesh, which men call physical, appeared. And this is what is called the fall of man. But man fell not alone, for protoplast and earth and planet and beast were all included in the fall. The angels in the Garubat fell not, for their will was strong, and so they held the ethers of their planes in harmony with Eli and Elianel. Now when the ether reached the rate of atmosphere, and all the creatures of these planes must get their food from the atmosphere, the conflict came, and then that which the finite man called survival of the best became law. The stronger ate the bodies of the weaker manifest, and here is where the carnal of evolution had its rise. In yonder kingdom of the soul, this carnal evolution is not known, and the great word of master minds is to restore the heritage of man, to bring him back to his estate that he had lost, when he again will live upon the ethers of his native plane. The thoughts of Elionel change not. The manifests of life on every plane unfolds into perfection of their kind, as the thought of Elionel can never die. There is no death of any being of the seven ethers of the seven spirits of the true in Elionel, and so, earth is never plant, a beast or a bird or a creeping thing is never man, and man is not and cannot be a beast or bird or creeping thing. The time will come when all these manifests will be absorbed, and man and beast and plant and earth and protoplast are revelation unto him. Now, Vidyapati, wisest of the Indian sages, chief for the temple of Kapivastu, heard Bharata speak to Jesus of the origin of man, and heard the answer of the Hebrew prophet, and he said, "You priest of Kapivastu, hear me speak. We stand today upon the crest of time. 6 time ago a master soul was born, who gave a glorious light to man. Now a master sage stands in the temple of Kapivastu. The Hebrew prophet is the rising star of wisdom. Defied, he brings us a knowledge of the secret things of Elionel, and all the world will hear his words and glorify his name. You priests of the temple of Kapivastu, stay. Be still and listen when he speaks. He is the living oracle of Elionel." And all the priests gave thanks and praised the Buddha of enlightenment. And he travelled into Persia amongst the Zoroastrians, then to Assyria amongst the Magi, and then to Egypt. Yeshua, with Elihu and Salome in Egypt, tells the story of his journeys. Elihu and Salome praise Elionel. Yeshua goes to the temple in Heliopolis and is received as a pupil. Yeshua came to the land of Egypt, and all is well. He tarried not upon the coast, and he went once to Zoan, home of Elihu and Salome, who 25 years before had taught his mother in their sacred school, and there was joy when he met them. When last the son of Mary had seen these sacred groves, he was a babe, and now a man, grown strong by buffeting of every kind, a teacher who had stirred the multitudes in many lands. And Yeshua told the aged teachers all about his life, about his journey, signs in foreign lands, about the meetings with the masters, and his kind receptions by the multitudes. Elihu and Salome heard his story with delight. They lifted up their eyes to heaven and said, "Our Father the Most High, let now your servants go in peace, for we have seen the glory of Elionel, and we have talked with him, the messenger of love, and of the covenant of peace on earth, goodwill towards men. Through him shall all the nations of the earth be blessed." Emmanuel, another name that Yeshua was called, a son of Isaiah. And Jesus stayed in Zoan many days, and there went forth into the city of the sun, that men call Heliopolis, and sought admission into the temple of the sacred, the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek. The council of the ancient mystical order of Melchizedek convened, and Yeshua stood before the Hierophant and exclaimed, "Rabboni of the Rabbinate, I seek for wisdom. In the hall of learning I would sit. The heights that any man has gained, these I would gain. The disappointments and the sore temptations of what any man has suffered I would meet, that I may know my brother man, that I may know just how to help those in need. I pray you, brothers, let me go into the dismal crypts, and I would pass the hardest of your tests." The Master said, "Then take now the vow of the secret brotherhood." And Yeshua took the vow of the secret to the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek. Again the Master spoke and said, "The highest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths, and you shall read the greatest depths." The guide then led the way, and in the fountain Yeshua bathed, and when he had been clothed in the proper garb, he stood again before the Hierophant. Then he moved on into Persepolis Aran, then stopped at the great spiritual center. He headed towards Assyria, into Damascus, on into Galilee, where he went to visit his mother Mary. In each of these places he spent his time studying, covering the period of about 5 years, healing and teaching, and also learning. At age 26, he involved himself with radical groups who spoke out against the Pharisees, calling them vipers and the likes. At age 27, Mary his mother feared for his involvement. At age 28, he married and impregnated his wife Mary of Magdalene. At age 29, he and his wife left to go to study at the mystical schools in the Jordan amongst the Essenes, also to visit his cousin Johanna, spending time there, teaching and learning and presenting his new wife Mary of Magdalene, whom he married in the year 28 AD in Cana. The Essenes considered him to be too opinionated, and he was temporarily outcast from the order. At age 29, while in the Jordan, he got his mikvah or baptism, his shahada. This is the good news about Yeshua HaMashiach, the Ibn Eli and Elionel. It began as the prophet Isaiah. Eli and Elionel said, "I will send my messenger ahead of you to clear the way for you." Someone is shouting in the desert. He is the noble son of the desert, and he is drunk from the well. Get the road ready for the Rabboni, make a straight path for him to travel. So you, Yohana, appeared in the desert, giving shahadas and tabligh, that is giving dawah to the masses. Turn away from your sins and get your shahadas, he told the people, and Eli and Elionel will forgive your sins. Many people from the province of Judah and the city of Jerusalem went out to hear Yohana. They confessed their sins, and he baptized them in the Jordan River. Yohana's clothes were made of camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist, and his food was locust and wild honey. He announced to the people, "The man who will come after me is much more greater than I am. I am not good enough to even bend down and untie his sandals. I baptized you with water, but he will baptize you with the Holy Soul." Not long after, Yeshua came from Nazareth in the province of Galilee and was baptized by Yohana in the Jordan. As soon as Yeshua came out of the water, he saw the skies open and a craft coming down on him flying like a dove, and a voice came from the sky and said, "You are my Walid son, I am pleased with you." At once, the spiritual craft ordered him to go into the desert, where he stayed 40 days being tempted by Nakash. During that period, John was arrested and imprisoned. While John the Baptist was imprisoned, he was visited by an agent of the Judahites who worked for the Romans. The secret agent's name was Judas Iscariot, son of Simon. He asked John to give him a complete profile on this stranger. John's reply was, "Who asked?" Judas said, "I seek to follow him." John then replied, "Follow who?" He said, "The real Messiah." John knew that there was a deception in his voice and in his eyes. So he answered, "I'm not sure if this one before us is the real Messiah. I will send an inquirer," because John had heard while in prison the works of Yeshua. Judas was pretending that he did not know that Yeshua and John were first cousins, so as a means of a warning, John sent two of his disciples, Jonas and Elias, both relatives by birth, and they were to ask Yeshua this question, "Art you he that should come, or do we look for another?" Yeshua answered and said unto them, "Go and show John again those things which you do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walked, and the lepers are cleaned, and the deaf hear, and the dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. And blessed is he, whoever shall not be offended in me." And as the two turned to walk away, Yeshua began to say unto the multitudes concerning John, "What went ye out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken in the wind? But what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft white raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went ye out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, and more than a prophet. For this is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before your face, which shall prepare the way before you. Verily I say unto you, amongst them that are born of women, there has not risen a greater than John the Baptist, notwithstanding that he is least in the kingdom of heaven, is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has suffered violence, and the violence took it by force. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John, and if you will receive it, this is Elijah which was to come. He that has an ear to hear, let him hear. And Jonas and Elias knew what Yeshua meant, and returned to John with the message. And John knew that this was indeed a Messiah. And Yeshua knew that his life from this point on would be in danger. And Judas knew that he must betray Yeshua from this point on. The priest at the time was Zechariah, the husband of Elizabeth. Herod the Great sent for Zechariah to appear before his throne, to be questioned as to the whereabouts of this child. Herod the Great was under the impression that Zechariah's son, Yohana al-Mikwa, was the child the wise men were looking for. Herod the Great slew Zechariah because he refused to reveal the whereabouts of his son. Because he did not know, he was struck dead on the spot. Members of the Essene Brotherhood rescued Yohana al-Mikwa and his mother Elizabeth and brought them to Zoan. Elizabeth and Yohana al-Mikwa resided with a relative in the Engedi Hills. When Yohana al-Mikwa was 9 years old, his education was undertaken by Metheno, an Egyptian Israelite who was a master from the temple of Saqqara under the instruction of Zosa, the master healer. Elizabeth died when Yohana al-Mikwa was 12 years old, so Metheno took him to Zoan, where he remained until he was 30 years old. Yohana al-Mikwa spent half of his life with the Essenes and the other half by himself in the wilderness. Yohana al-Mikwa remained in the bed Bedouin lifestyle because all his life he believed the Romans were out to kill him. He was known as a very powerful and spiritual man who foreran and prepared the way for Yeshua. He spoke of one who would come after him. Yohanan al-Mikra would have been an Israelite doing his job if he had not been a threat to Herod and his people. He baptized Yeshua and passed everything over to him. Yohanan al-Mikra met his death at the request of Herodias, Herod Antipas's wife. She instructed her daughter to request the head of Yohanan al-Mikra at the birthday of Herod Antipas. Herod Antipas was the son of Herod the Great. He married his half-brother's wife Herodias, an act which was condemned by Yohanan al-Mikra. Herod Antipas didn't have Yohanan al-Mikra killed because he had attracted a very large following, and his death would have stirred the anger of the people. However, when it was Herod's birthday, his daughter Salome, the daughter of Herodias, danced for him. The style of dance she performed was very seductive, and it pleased Herod, and he promised her anything she wished for. Herodias saw this as a chance to seek revenge on Yohanan al-Mikra for publicly condemning her marriage, and instructed her daughter Salome to ask for the head of Yohanan al-Mikra on a charger, a platter. Yeshua returned for the Jordan River, full of the Holy Soul, and was led by the spiritual crafts into the desert, being a son of the desert, where he was tempted of the devil for 40 days. And in all that time he ate nothing, so that he was hungry when it was all over. And the devil said unto him, If you are Walid, Elian Elianel, you would have the power to do all things. So Nakash took him up and showed him the Essene village, the second of all the kingdoms of the world, and said, I will give you all this power and all this wealth. This is what Nakash told him. It has all been handed over to me, and I can give it to anyone I choose. All this could be yours if you worship me. Yeshua said, the scriptures said, worship Yahuwah of the Elohim and serve him only.